Okay, continuing under statutory hearings, transportation, item number 18, Rio Verde Foothills Domestic Water Improvement District Establishment Hearing. We will now open the hearing for item number 18, the Rio Verde Water Improvement District. I would like to ask Supervisor Chukri if he would like to make some opening remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know we'll spend a few minutes on this morning, and appropriately so. As you know, water is a very sacred commodity here in Arizona. I learned this all too well after first getting elected back in 2012 from my constituents in Rio Verde, where a lot of their water is hauled, and getting up to speed on those issues pertaining to water and water usage and how we best utilize it there. We formed a task force to try and look into it. And that really goes back to 2013, and here we are in 2021. And I applaud both those who actually have their minds in a direction of opposition to this, as well as those that support it. This is not an enviable situation for any of us to be in. The county is acting more as a facilitator. Yes, we have a voting right here that will set this in a direction, but we're really trying to bring both sides together to get the best future of water needs for this part of my district. In 2019, I asked then County Attorney Bill Montgomery to seek an opinion from the Attorney General because there was an uneasiness of whether or not a DWID could be formed in this area, given how contiguous in the layout of that area. We received word that just last year, at the end of last year, that a DWID could be properly formed according to the Attorney General. So that set in motion why we're here today with petitions being presented to our very talented Jen Toth. We might think this is a planning issue, but it really falls under her responsibilities. And so she's going to come up here in a minute or so to give us a presentation. But before she does, I just want to convey, as all of my colleagues know, Mr. Gates certainly knows in his part of the district what he's been dealing with having to get EPCOR to provide some water in the Anthem and other areas surrounding that. This is tough. This is not easy. We are working with Scottsdale. We've had several meetings with Scottsdale. I have a new meeting coming up with the new mayor of Scottsdale because they have been a critical part of our water success up there by bringing water and hauling it to the Rio Verde area. So with that, Mr. Chairman, we'll hear from Ms. Toth now. And I would just encourage those people here today, Mr. Chairman, as you will, to say we're listening to you. We want to hear you. And then we'll take further action as to what the next steps will be. So thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Chukri. And I will now ask Jennifer Toth and Jen Barkowski to come up and make a presentation to the board. Jen and Jen.
Thank you, Chairman and members of the board. Agenda item 18 is to convene a public hearing and consider the petition to establish the Rio Verde Foothills Domestic Water Improvement District, or as noted, a DWID. Title 48 of Arizona Revised Statutes allows DWIDs to be established for the acquisition, the construction, or repair of water works for the delivery of water for domestic purposes. A citizen-driven petition was filed with the county superintendent of streets to establish the Rio Verde Foothills DWID. The proposed Rio Verde Foothills DWID is bounded, as you see on the map, by McDowell Mountain Regional Park to the south, the Tonto National Forest to the north, City of Scottsdale to the west, and approximately 176th Street to the east. The proposed DWID, however, is non-contiguous, meaning only the property owners that have signed the petition will be a part of the DWID and subject to taxation and assessments by the DWID. As of 5 p.m. last night, property owners representing 186 properties within this boundary seek to form the DWID. Accordingly, only those included properties will benefit from the water supply and services provided by the DWID. Counties are charged by state statute with certain responsibilities related to the creation of these DWIDs, namely upon receipt of a petition for the establishment of the DWID, the Board of Supervisors must set a date for a public hearing on the petition not later than 40 days after the acceptance of the petition. The petition was accepted by the Superintendent of Streets as meeting all legal requirements on February 17th of this year. Following the public hearing and upon consideration of all objections, state statute says the Board of Supervisors shall vote on the approval of the formation of the DWID if the petition is signed by the requisite number of owners of real property and its formation will promote the public convenience, necessity, or welfare. In addition, a DWID within 6 miles of an incorporated city or town must obtain the consent of the governing body of the city or town. The petitioners have obtained consent from Scottsdale, Carefree, and Fountain Hills as required by state law. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay. Any questions from the board? Okay, let me set some ground rules before we start to take comments from the public. We have a number of people who would like to speak both for and against this item. I will hold all speakers to 2 minutes and ask that you not repeat comments made by previous speakers. Our clerk will read the name of the speaker, and once you hear your name, please begin with your address to the board. I want to assure everybody who wants to be heard has an opportunity to be heard. Madam Clerk, how many speakers do we have signed on for this item?
Chairman, we received 22 speaker forms to date, 8 speakers in favor and 14 in opposition. And just for the record, Chairman, the clerk of the board's office received a total of 98 letters and comments in favor and 102 comments and letters in opposition. And all of these comments were shared with the board members and with the superintendent of streets. If you wish, I can start with the applicant, Karen Nabity, and she has a presentation.
Okay, please.
Hello, Chairman and members of the board. For the record, my name is Karen Nabity. My address is 13730 East Cavedale Drive, Scottsdale 85262. 3 generations of my family live in the Rio Verde Foothills. I am a petitioner and a prospective board member. Next. The Rio Verde Foothills is an unincorporated area just east of Scottsdale. There are 2,100 homes, and of those, 700 rely solely on hauled water. Petitioners are a combination of parcel owners who rely wholly or partially on hauled water, rely on individual or shared wells, and we have those who own raw land and want a secure source of water for the future. Next. Over the last 5 years, volunteers have investigated various options, met with numerous entities, and attended multiple water meetings and a water conference. The culmination of the research, advice of multiple attorneys, and the need for residents to have the choice to be included in the district left a non-contiguous district as the solution. A non-contiguous district allows for allows for formation to include only those parcels whose owner signs the petition. The majority of the community relies on individual or shared wells, and it's important that those residents who choose not to join the district are not burdened with an obligation to support the district. Next. The district will have a 2-phase plan. In the first phase, the district will explore available sources of water. Once a water source is determined, an intergovernmental agreement can be initiated with the Central Arizona Project, the City of Scottsdale, and the source of water. Water will be available initially for water haulers via the current fill station at Pima and Joe Max in Scottsdale, where we get our water now. Next, in the second phase, which may overlap the first one. The district will purchase land, build a district fill station, and add piping to connect to City of Scottsdale's infrastructure so the district's water can be retrieved. Next. For our initial petition, we have 176 parcels that have joined. All parcel owners were invited to join the district with this initial petition, as we felt it was extremely important that every single parcel owner had the option to join the district. The district will allow parcel owners to petition to join the district annually, subject to water availability. Currently, we have a sign up on our website, gotwaterrbf.com, for a second petition by residents in 2021 for parcel owners who refrained from joining initially to get a better idea. I will say, we had a lot of people say that they wanted to have a better understanding of costs. So we expect up to 200 people to join on our second round once we start to negotiate for that water source. And then for residents who are new to the area or this discussion, and then residents who are misinformed about the district or the water situation. Next. Now, misinformation. There's been so much information dispersed to our community in an effort to halt the process of forming this district. And we want to clarify a few points regarding residents of our community. The district cannot cap your well, stop you from using your well, tax your well, or charge you to use your own well. The district cannot tax non-member properties, and the district will not install streets and lightings throughout the Rio Verde Foothills. Next. Before submitting our petition, we had to receive consent from Fountain Hills, Carefree, and Scottsdale, as Jen just talked about, and all unanimously approved consent. The next video clip is from Scottsdale's council meeting on February 2nd. And board members, I assure you it's a short video, so just hang with me here. But it covers a lot of stuff and makes it a simple explanation to some of our opposition, and will clarify some information. Please play that video. We are not hearing the video feed from the video.
No, we are not.
Hopefully she can get this corrected, because Brian's words are pretty powerful, and this is probably the key point of our whole presentation here.
Yeah, we're still not getting any audio.
Okay, if you want to play the video, I'll try to be Brian, but unfortunately I don't have a script of everything he said in his presentation at the council meeting. So if you'll go ahead and just play, and I'll tell you when to pause, that would be great. If you could just pause here. So he discusses on the screen the City of Scottsdale's position and explains that the Rio Verde Foothills is not in Scottsdale. A lot of our residents, because they're when they bought their property, it was marketed by their realtor as being within the City of Scottsdale, and their address says City of Scottsdale. Unfortunately, it's just not the case. The city of their address says Scottsdale because their post office is in Scottsdale. And then he went over about the hauled water situation out here, and he also touched on City of Scottsdale has notified our community since 2016 and has encouraged our community to find our own water source. Go ahead to the next version. I guess just let it play and I'll keep talking over it. Mhm.
Okay, nothing is changing here.
Yeah. Are you, there we go. Okay, so background, Scottsdale Water is committed to ensuring that our customers have a secure source of water. Scottsdale Water has tried to be a good neighbor and cannot indefinitely supply water to a growing area that is not Scottsdale. And with the shortage declaration on the Colorado River, and he emphasized here, Scottsdale Water will limit water hauling to only City of Scottsdale residents and businesses. You can scooch forward to the next slide. And so he explains that we're forming a district and why they approved the consent. In next screen, if you want to scoot forward. Okay, and if you'll, yeah, this is the best screen. So a lot of our community, in fact, people with the opposition, just within the last 48 hours on social media are telling our community, we are not in a drought and we're just fear mongering. And this is, you know, we're like those that believe in global warming, so to speak, situation. So this is from the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation, and you'll notice the orange line going across the screen, and that marks 1,075 feet. This is when the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation determines that we are in a Tier 1 shortage declaration. Now, going from the blue line that goes up and down and moving to the right, you'll notice 3 lines. The blue line at the top is if we had the most wet winter we can have, that describes that. The red line at the bottom describes that we will be, sorry, I'll let her get back there. But the red line describes the least amount, but the green line within that presentation says that is what the most probable is. And if you'll notice, the orange box says January 2022 at or below 1,075 feet. That prediction, it's important to understand right now they are saying in June of this year we will be below the 1,075. But what actually makes the Tier 1 become designated is in August of this year. If the Bureau says in August of this year that in January 2022, the prediction is we will be below 1,075 feet. That means January 2022, we will be in a Tier 1 shortage. And I want to say when he did this presentation, if you'll notice at the top of the screen, it says January 2021 for this graph. Right now, here we are in April, and the April predictions just came out, and they are much worse than what they were in January. So this, you know, if we had this graph for right now, this graph looks much worse. So it's important for everybody on this call to understand that there is a shortage and that it is most likely we will be in a Tier 1 shortage. And if you look out at the current one that just came out this week from the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation, we almost hit Tier 2 at the end of 2022, guys. So it's getting serious. Go ahead and go to the next screen. I don't know. Okay, and that's the end of his presentation. Now, in this presentation, he actually stated, he finished his comments to the mayor at that point, and I'll have to go off top of my head here because I don't have the transcript in front of me. But he said, oh, there it is. It's very likely that in the year 2022, we will be in a Tier 1 shortage, and Scottsdale will experience a cutback to our Colorado River allocation by between 2,000 to 3,000 acre feet of water. We'll still have sufficient water for our residents, but as a consequence of this, we will stop allowing water hauling to anyone who is not in the city of Scottsdale. So I hope that gets the attention of everybody on this call. Now, after his presentation, council members shared their thoughts, and here are some of the comments they made. Vice Mayor Janik said, it's advantageous that before we get to tier 1 shortage, the process begins. You certainly don't want to be in an emergency situation, and it seems like it would be for a couple years because it takes so long to secure this type of an agreement. So I would highly recommend that we begin the process now, that you, and she's referring to the Rio Verde Foothills, begin the process now so that you will eventually have an adequate water supply. Councilwoman Caputi said the council got an awful lot of comments from Rio Verde begging us not to approve the DWID. My recommendations is make sure your residents understand there seems to be a lot of misinformation out there. They need to understand what is at stake here and what is happening. Council Member Durham said, it's important for the residents to secure water for themselves. In terms of misinformation, I think some of the comments we received from the people opposed to the district claimed that if the district is formed, Scottsdale is immediately going to shut off their water supply. So I would like to ask Mr. Biesmeyer if he could clarify whether that's the case or not. And Brian Biesmeyer responded with, no, that is not the case. When Rio Verde Foothills gets their own supply, there's no need for us to continue to provide water hauling, but the formation of the district is not the mark of when we would stop providing water. And finally, Councilwoman Littlefield said, I think frankly, the proposed water district formation is coming rather late to Rio Verde. I think it should have been done earlier. The only thing that I was concerned about is that we work with them however we can to ensure that they do have a water supply until their district is up and running. And those of us forming the district, our initial team, we believe because we are forming this district that we can encourage the city of Scottsdale to work with us. And instead of stopping water hauling in January 2022, as Brian Biesmeyer indicated in his presentation, that we think they'll work with us and supply water, hopefully, until the district obtains our own source of water, which we expect to be in 2024. And due to that, it will be because of the district that our community would have water for the next 3 years. Next screen. Why is it critical we act now? Well, I think that clarified a lot of it, but additionally, there's 3 additional reasons. First, the city of Scottsdale just passed their new drought management plan on April 6, 2021. And under that, on stage 1, which is tied to the tier 1, if it's under that 1,075 feet that I showed you on the graph, Scottsdale's commercial and residential fill stations shall be shut down or restricted at this stage. Any water hauling operations will cease unless the water hauling customer, whether residential or commercial, can prove indisputably that the hauled water is being supplied directly to a city of Scottsdale resident or business. And as we all know, the Rio Verde Foothills is not part of Scottsdale. Second, the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation projects tier drought declarations worsening over the next 5 years. And third, water scarcity is growing as water managers at federal, state, local, and private sectors are buying up available water sources. Time is of the essence. We need approval so we can negotiate for available water sources before they are gone. Next, a water source can only be attained upon the approval of the district by you, the Board of Supervisors. We truly appreciate your time and leave you with this summation. If the district is not approved and Scottsdale ceases water hauling outside of their boundaries in 2022, we will be without a secure source of water. Thank you for your time. This concludes my presentation, and I would be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. And I think we will move to taking comments from the speakers that have asked to address this issue. And because there are so many people that have asked to speak, I'm going to remind you again, we're going to limit your comments to 2 minutes. Please don't repeat something that's already been said. Madam Clerk, we will start with those in opposition to this item.
Yes, the first speaker, Jim Johnston.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Supervisors. Thank you for giving me the chance to speak. My name is Jim Johnston. I reside at 28509 North 138th Place in Scottsdale, making me one of approximately 2,400 people in the so-called Rio Verde Foothills that are vehemently opposed to the proposed DWID. The primary reason for the discontent that this has caused in our area is that a few people are going to have an immense amount of power over all of their neighbors. This includes condemnation, annexation, taxation. There are staggered board terms in this entity as proposed in 2, 4, and 6 years, meaning that the founders would be in control, one of them for 4 years, the other one for 6 years. That's an immense amount of concentrated power. As you know, as elected officials, you don't get 6-year terms. It was mentioned at the beginning that there was the AG opinion talking about the non-continuous DWID. That is an AG opinion that does not have the force and effect of law and is subject to legal challenge. This thing is going to set off an immense amount of litigation like Arizona has not seen. What's going on right now with Maricopa County is they are handing out building permits in this area like candy. And if they really believe that the water source is not here to support those homes, you might want to walk across the aisle and talk to the folks handing out those permits, because that is gross negligence like we have never seen. It's probably enough to get past the immunity from prosecution that the elected officials have. It's going to create just a hellstorm of litigation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker, Andy Gaona.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, members of the Board of Supervisors. My name is Andy Gaona. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Coppersmith Brockelman in Phoenix, located at 2800 North Central Avenue, Suite 1900. I'm here today, and I've written to you 3 times already on behalf of a contingent of Rio Verde Foothills residents who strongly oppose the formation of the proposed DWID and who urge you to exercise your discretion to deny the petition before you today. For any number of reasons, the proposed DWID will emphatically not promote the public convenience, necessity, or welfare as is required by ARS 48-906A. You will hear from many members of the community, and in fact, you've already heard from many of those members. But the truth is that you've actually heard from more than 1/3 of the property owners in the area through the signatures on the counter petition that I provided to you in early January of this year. The 660 signatures on that counter petition are compelling evidence of the prevailing public sentiment against just 176 properties controlling the water future of this entire area. Though a non-contiguous district may conceivably be appropriate under certain circumstances, it is certainly not appropriate, whereas here, it's used as a tool to blatantly subvert any concept of majority rule. The petition purports to solve a problem that the petitioners themselves helped create by pestering the city of Scottsdale about their future plans for the fill station on which many area residents currently rely. Yet they've now asked this board to create a DWID that those same proponents want to control for an extended period of time, as Mr. Johnston just explained. In short, the community as a whole rejects this new level of government regulation in this area, particularly one that will have the power to take control over the water supply to this entire area and impose discriminatory water rates against those who don't live within its boundaries and who did not support its formation in the first instance. So on behalf of my clients, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I urge you to reject the petition. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Christina Jackman.
Ms. Jackman, you are self-muted.
We will move on to the next speaker, Daniel Dorchensky.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Daniel.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. My name is Dan Dorchinsky. I'm a property owner at 28417 North 146th Place in the Rio Verde Foothills. And I would ask that you refer to my written objections submitted for additional detail. The first speaker, who was a proponent, mentioned the term misinformation. There is misinformation because there is no real plan for DWID operations. Fundamentally, the question has not been answered. How will this DWID affect those in Rio Verde Foothills that are not in the DWID? And what is the definition of available water? And how will available water capture affect those not in the DWID? The DWID has not provided any specifics on its goals, the environmental impact, and the economic impact of its formation. And the DWID proponents, this has been said, but I'll say it slightly differently, they're relying on an interpretation and loophole in an attempt to achieve community support for this DWID. By using the non-contiguous interpretation, they are gerrymandering a boundary to ensure that 51% of resident support is achieved. This is an underhanded use of a loophole to force an outcome without the consent and agreement of the residents. I request you table this measure with a specific directive that the DWID proponents publish a plan that includes an environmental impact study, water delivery strategy, pricing estimates, and demonstrate that this addresses the needs of the entire community. The board stands for fair and transparent elections. Let's make sure that this process commits to the same standards. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today.
Thank you.
Amy Ruggles.
Good morning. I am a property owner and I am an attorney in the state of California. I'd like to look at the reviewing statute for formation of the DWID. ARS 4810113 requires that a DWID include a domestic water delivery system. Proponents have not met this standard. Instead, they are asking to have merely a standpipe placed that does not deliver water to all of the residents and all of the properties within the foothills. I don't believe the board has the authority to approve without them meeting this very initial burden. I'd also have you look at statute 48903C3. While some homeowners with property located in the foothills may stand to benefit from the proposed DWID, many others will not. Their petition does not establish why a county improvement district with the power to levy taxes, the power to condemn private land for government purposes, and with a separate governing board made up of certain property owners with a vested interest is in the best interests of the public. Instead, it stands to serve a limited few. I'd also have you look at ARS 48903C2. The homeowners who signed the petition currently haul water from a city standpipe, and EPCOR has indicated that if an alternate water supply could be obtained by the community, they would be willing to work with the community to treat and deliver, please pay attention to the word deliver, the water to the residents. That is the type of system we need that is inclusive of all in the foothills. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Ann Hughes.
Ann?
Ms. Hughes, you are self-muted.
We'll move on to the next one. George Rodriguez.
I'm sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead, George.
Okay, I live at 16443 East Dixoletta, and this is in the Rio Verde Foothills. My wife and I and 4 children have resided here since 2015, and we attended several meetings over the years, which were brought together by the Water Task Force, which I think now, for the most part, is the DWED. And although they had good intentions, as others have mentioned, you know, there's never really been any specific plans that have been shared, and there's not been, in my mind, total transparency. When you look at their exhibits and you drill down into their maps, you see that they're actually very small dots on some large maps. The signature pages I reviewed myself, and I'm no expert or lawyer, but there are numerous strikes and same handwriting on multiple lines and multiple parcels, each signature. But even so, if we assume they're valid and we look at the Maricopa County Comprehensive Plan that was written in 1997 and adopted for the Rio Verde Foothills in 2005 with an eye to the future, 2020, it indicated in this 20 square mile area, if we remove from that area the other areas they mentioned, which is the Epicor, Rio Mountain, Granite Mountain, and Vista Verde, it leaves about 11,789 acres, of which 176 petitioners would make up approximately 1.5% of the entire population of this area. The plan also indicates maybe it would potentially be 8,000 potential homes. It would be 2.2. And it also states the state law requires, and this is in the plan, state law requires that Maricopa County address water resources. So I say it's time to update the plan, and I pray that you reject the petition. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lisa Kelly.
Hi, I'm Lisa Kelly, and I would like to speak to the complete breakdown of trust within the community. This whole endeavor was started in secret, and our district supervisor, unfortunately, did not help with these trust issues. An email I received from the Rio Verde Foothills Water Project, which specifically asks that the information not be shared, reads in quote, on April 23rd, 2018, Supervisor Chukri arranged a meeting with the mayor of Scottsdale and his staff to meet with the task force to confirm our understanding of Scottsdale's position, to discuss the RVF's future needs, and to begin a relationship with the city, end quote. While helpful to the task force, it would have been more helpful if the supervisor came out to the foothills to speak with the residents, instead of taking the proponent's word for it that we were behind this project. But then when your office was bombarded with letters regarding your role, many of us received the following, and I quote, as the elected official representing the area, I do not lead a community initiative. I respond to it with my vote after the process outlined in statute is followed and after a public hearing occurs once petitions are presented, end quote. Okay, so you didn't lead it, but you sure helped it along. A meeting to discuss the very life source of our community occurred without community input. As you have all become aware, the majority of residents do not want this DeWitt. And the fact that the proponents, through Supervisor Chukri, surreptitiously sought an opinion from the Attorney General on district borders tells you that they also knew that the majority did not want the district. An opinion, may I remind you, that the Attorney General himself was so concerned that there may be constitutional consequences. My legal counsel suggested the same, so I'm asking you to please oppose this petition. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I do have a request from Christina Jackman, if I could read her statement.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Okay. Okay, so Christina says, the interpretation that a district can be formed using a statement of don't sign and it won't affect you is grossly false. Multiple attorneys have outlined how any actions taken by the proposed district will have broad effects. Some are very grave. These include the use of eminent domain for utility easements and procuring properties for standpipes, wells, and truck stops. Drilling a commercial well can cause surrounding well failure and could affect hundreds of residents, resulting in a loss of property value. Residents' right to quiet enjoyment is infringed when truck stop is built next door. A huge issue is the loss of Scottsdale as a source for hauled water. In the proponent Zoom meeting, Nicole Sherbert, representing Scottsdale, told us that once the district is formed and has secured a water source, Scottsdale will initiate a permanent shutdown of hauling to Rio Verde. Her quote was, "Scottsdale will not compete with any entity formed." We have always known that Scottsdale could restrict or even temporarily shut off hauling in a severe drought situation. This loss is further problematic in that the proponents have repeatedly stated they cannot and will not purchase enough to supply all the hauled water homes. These are effects we know will happen. I am sure that there are many that not even have been considered. Clearly, adverse effects of gerrymandering together a tiny district using a non-binding opinion of an attorney general will cause harm. It removes the voice of the community and subverts the intent, the 51% legal boundary. Non-contiguous historically has been used by existing districts to annex and join small areas together, not to gerrymander out all opposition. I am speaking for the 668 residents who rallied in 3 weeks to sign a petition in opposition and hire legal counsel so this precedent-setting district would not be formed. Their voice matters and should be heard and respected. We request you deny this petition to form a non-contiguous district in the Rio Verde Foothills and let the full community come together to address the future of our water. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jeff McDowell.
Mr. McDowell, you are self-muted.
Yeah, we really have a lot of speakers, so please be ready when your name is called.
We'll move on to the next one. Joe Ingram. Mr. Ingram.
Mr. Ingram, your microphone is unmuted.
Okay,
We'll
let's
move on.
Now it's self-muted.
Jeremy Haskins.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello, Chairman and board members. My name is Jeremy Haskins. I'm a resident of Rio Verde Foothills. I'm also a civil engineer with 15 years of hydrology, water resources, and municipal utility experience. I'm not here to debate the necessity of a water resource plan for our community. We need that. The debate before us today is whether an improvement district, as petitioned, is the correct solution. It most definitely is not. First and foremost, our community is against the petition. If it was in favor, they would use a traditional boundary and get 51% approval. As Supervisor Chukuri mentioned, this process has been going on for 8 years, and the petitioners only gathered 152 people. Meanwhile, 650 opposed were gathered in a matter of weeks. The petitioners also submitted a rebuttal to those opposed, and they listed 9 improvement districts as examples of non-contiguous boundaries. What they didn't mention is that every one of those 9 is outside of Maricopa County. They use groundwater as their sole source of water, and it wasn't clear whether those districts were formed using a non-contiguous boundary or expanded using a non-contiguous boundary. There was talk just now in the presentation regarding drought restrictions. If the state goes tier 1, the CAP has to reduce its allocation 512,000 acre feet. They're not going to be allocating Rio Verde Foothills while cutting 512,000 acre feet. The district's going to be drilling wells, non-exempt wells. That's what's going to happen. And when you drill non-exempt wells next to a bunch of exempt wells, you can get drawdown. And drawdown would mean existing exempt wells could go dry. Now you're harming more people than doing good for the 152.
Okay, please wrap it up. You're exceeding 2 minutes.
If as the petitioners claim the community, this is for the community, draw a circle around the community, get 51% approval. The board needs to respect the will of the people on this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Michael Beatty?
I'm sorry, did you say Mike Beatty?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. My name is Mike Beatty. I'm an attorney in Scottsdale at the firm of Comets Beatty, 6720 North Scottsdale Road, Suite 150. I represent the Brenda Joyce Trust, who is the owner of property at 28823 North 138th Street in the Rio Verde Foothills. I don't want to rehash the impact of this Attorney General opinion, but I do want to make it an important statement in that the Attorney General did not say this should be formed. It said it can be formed, but only if it serves the greater public convenience, necessity, and welfare. You are hearing from a majority of the residents. Over 600 people, I think 658 people are saying they do not want this water district. And what is the real problem here? It's not the people that are in the district or that sign up, the 160 some people. It's the people that aren't signed up. You heard from the opening presentation that there may be opportunities for people to sign up at a later date if there's water available. So what do these people that are not part of the water district now, what are they to do for their water source? That's not clear. It has not been addressed. The prior speaker brought up a very important issue in that there could be wells dug in order to supply water. There's been absolutely no study conducted to determine what impact digging a well like that will have on other people's wells that already have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to secure their own water source. So at a minimum, there needs to be some studies to determine exactly what will happen to those existing people within the Rio Verde Foothills but are not part of the water district. It would be patently unfair to allow for these wells to be dug and impacting people that are not even part of the district. And at the end of the day, we would go from multiple sources for hauled water, which we have now, to a single source, the water district. So you would lose all competition as to pricing and competition for the supply of that water. And finally, I think most important thing is this board would be granted, the board of the DWID would be granted a great amount of power for eminent domain to set water fees, to determine who is or is not part of the water district, and powers that should not be granted over individuals that do not wish to be part of the water district.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mark Seabright?
Good morning, Chairman and members of the board. I am Mark Seabright. I'm a resident in Rio Verde. I live at 34411 North 140th Street. I can only echo the opinions and statements of the people before me in the fact that the impacts on the community are far-reaching, and they're being directed and controlled by a limited number of people. I would ask that you reject the DWID and do not approve this, but take action as Maricopa County in the best interest of the residents and help us to find a viable solution for our community. As residents of the county, we look to you for your support and guidance in these areas. And I think that there is opportunity if we work together to bring the entire community together rather than dividing it. So I ask that of you and appreciate your support. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Last one on the list for opposition is Damon Bruns.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Hi, my name is Damon Bruns. I've been a resident in this community since 2005. So a little bit of the back history, that I've seen and heard is this small group has been pushing forward kind of behind the scenes for the last couple of years, talking to state agencies, legislative branches, and other entities, I think more for their own personal interests and not for the community. There's been a few people that are heavily involved with some administrative sites, Facebooks and things of that nature. And so they've been able to control and censor some of those comments and what's transpiring in there. I just feel the integrity and the transparency of this so far has been minimal at best. I own 3 different properties out here at one point. And like I said, I've lived out here since 2005, and I've never received any information via mail. I've had to get that from neighbors or other people in the community to find out what was even going on. I know that they've been working behind the scenes as well. I know there's a House bill they're trying to pass behind the community's back, not even knowing. It was HB 2439 about a little over a year ago for a standpipe, and no one in our community even knew about it. So just the transparency and whatnot is just not been very forthcoming. And I feel that's where a lot of this frustration has come in our community. I think we all know water is a vital source in our community, but there's not been anything to our community as far as what they plan on doing. I mean, they're basically forming a entity, a business, and relying on our community as basically being the bank. I know as a business owner, if I went to a bank and asked for $1 million, I'd have to have a business plan. And we've had no disclosures of where they're going to get the water, how much it's going to cost. We have no hard numbers. We don't know anything. We're in the dark. And I think that's why a lot of our residents are opposed to this, because there's just too many unknowns. We haven't had any hydraulic testing or hydrology testing in the community. If they do a standpipe, there's been no environmental impact studies.
Okay, please wrap it up now.
Nothing has been conducted other than we need to form this DWID. So I'll wrap it up just by thanking everybody. But I think we do need to come together as a community as a whole and figure this out. So again, thank you for your time today. And based on the mass numbers of the constituents opposed to in the community at this point, I feel that that can help validate your decision today. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, Madam Clerk, we have speakers in favor of this.
Yes, we do, Chairman. Jennifer Simpson.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, please.
You can hear me, okay. Hi, my name is Jennifer Simpson, and I am a 22-year resident of Rio Verde Foothills. When I first moved here, there were still weeds in the middle of my dirt road in front of my house, and there was no paved roads. No power here either. I'm on a shared well, but have relied upon hauled water for at least 18 years. I'm a petitioner, a prospective board member, and of the proposed water improvement district, and I'm also part of the team bringing this petition before you today. We've had a water issue, and I want to say that I'm changing a little bit of my speech because I had it written out, and I want to address some of the comments that the opposition has brought up. First and foremost, they continue to state that there was over 600 people opposed. One member said that there was 2,400 people opposed. As far as the petition that was submitted, it didn't have a particular person's name on the petition. The actual signatures submitted weren't of quality to be an official petition. I think it was stated on Facebook that Christy Jackman said that it is not an official petition. Some of the issues with the signatures are that there were many signatures written by the same hand. Some signatures were not even signed. They were just handwritten names and addresses. There's no declaration stating that people signing this petition even read anything. They didn't receive anything, that they actually received what they were signing for. There's no attestation to a person witnessing their signature. There's nobody stating, I'm a volunteer and I've witnessed this person signing this thing. And multiple residents per household were also, there were sometimes 3 or 4 people per household signing this same petition. That being said, a lot of people might have signed it. Some of the people signing it might have been told misinformation. They didn't get, their doors were knocked on and were told that we would cap their wells and charge them for using their water. And we have a couple of people, at least 4 or 5 of these people, we had to go back and get affidavits from because they initially signed the opposition petition and then realized that's not what they thought it was.
Okay, please wrap up now.
One of which is Scott Mendoza. And in his affidavit, all these affidavits were submitted to you, by the way. In his affidavit, the information shared to him by the opposition was that he was told at the time of signing that the water source would be local Rio Verde Foothills area water and would affect his well, and he didn't want this to be so. And to that point, we have said many, many, many times that we are going to be buying outside water. We have no intention of drilling a well. Although we have the right to, as a district, we have no intention of drilling any wells. If we did have that ability and wanted to do so, which we've been advised to do, even by ADWR, it is ADWR who decides that for us, and they have strict requirements upon commercial wells. We couldn't just go out there and drill wells.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Regardless of what the water situation was. Am I done?
Yeah, please. We have a lot of speakers and we've already taken a lot of time on this item. So I need to remind everyone that we are limiting speakers to 2 minutes. So please, please respect that. Madam Clerk?
John Joas.
Mr. Chairman, Madam Clerk, Mr. Joas does not appear to be online any longer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
John Ornewer.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Yes, please go ahead. John, did we lose you?
Okay, we can move on to Doreen Orner.
Okay, who do we have now?
Deb, did we lose John?
Okay, let's
Let me
move
see if
on.
I can unmute him again.
So, hello?
Yeah, go ahead, please. Okay.
We'll move on to Carmela Lizzo.
Unmute me. Hello, are you there?
Yes, please go ahead.
Are you there? Okay, great. Carmela Lizzo, 14307 East Hawkness, Rio Verde. I want to talk about some of the statements that were just made. Contrary to the attorney's comment, the community as a whole does not disapprove this water district. Also, Steve Chukri was at our first community meeting. None of this has been in secret. There has been flyers sent out. There have been banners. You heard Damon Bruns speak, and he said he got no information. However, he parked a water truck on 136 in Rio Verde announcing our water meeting. So I'm not quite sure where that came from. It could have been the other water hauler, but still that water truck was on the corner of 136 in Rio Verde for at least a month announcing a water meeting. So the opposition has played this as a big conspiracy. They think the climatologist was paid off. You know, everybody's going to make $1 million on this. I was approached by a man on Rio Verde Drive who asked me to sign the petition. He handed me a blank sheet of paper that had lines on it. That was it. I said, can I see the petition? He handed me an information sheet from 2018 that had total misinformation on it. It was not a petition. I stopped at the opposition's tent and asked to see the petition, and I was told I could not see it. I asked if residents were being given a copy of the petition. They signed, and I was told no. I had 2 neighbors call me to tell me that the opposition had called them to say that DWID would condemn their land as it was the perfect spot for a standpipe, even though one of them lived 3 miles away from Rio Verde on a dirt road. The opposition has run this case on social media. It's been disseminated, discussed, and of course, if it's on Facebook, it must be true, right? This is where the people who signed their opposition's petition got their information. They don't believe in the science. They think that global warming is a hoax, that there's no drought, that if we're just good neighbors, Scottsdale will be nice to us and won't cut us off. These will be the same people, mark my words, that will call this board screaming for help and demanding that you all do something when Scottsdale cuts us off. There is no time to wait. We don't need to do an aquifer study because they're not going to drill into the ground for water. And even if they have to, the alternative is that we have no water at all. That's the reality. The opposition has clearly stated that they will not. They've had 4 years to come up with a solution. And they have clearly stated that they're not going to do it. If this doesn't go through, then somebody will step up and find a solution. But there is no one to find another solution, because if there was, they would have started working on this 4 years ago.
Okay.
There's no time to wait. The drought is intensifying. Water sources are being snatched up. Tier 1 could be initiated, and in 8 months, Scottsdale could cut us off. The process to contract and deliver will take years. We do not have that time.
Yeah, please wrap up now.
Please.
Thank you.
I'm done. Thank you very much.
We will try Doreen Ornwer.
Doreen, you are self-muted. Could you unmute your microphone, please?
Okay. Can you hear us now? I'm with my wife, Doreen.
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. I'll speak. This is John again with Rio Verde water hauler for over 20 years. When we look at the situation, look at the current levels of Lake Mead and Lake Powell at 33 or something like 36 and 39%. We're in a drought. To think anything other is foolish, and something needs to get done. So what can we do? We can drill wells as individuals, and I can tell you right now that I have seen more well drillers out here over the last couple of months than I have perhaps in the last 10 years. When you can couple that along with a customer of mine on Windstone Trail stated that their static pressure dropped 268 feet over the course of the last 6 to 8 years. I don't wells is the solution to this issue, and seeking outside water sources as the DWID is doing, I believe is prudent. And to follow that up with the final point here, if any of those remember what happened to the towns of Desert Hills and New Rivers a couple of years back when the city of Phoenix cut them off the water, it was devastating. So you think that people, or for anybody to think that the city of Scottsdale will not protect their own and cut us off is foolish, especially when our friends at the city of Scottsdale have given us adequate warning that we really need to do something. The handwriting is on the wall, and they are telling us to do something. So that said, you have the very inevitable task of helping our community, and your decision will affect hundreds of people out here. So I hope you have the ability to muddle through the misinformation that has been presented out there, and there's plenty of it, and just look to the facts of the drought that we're in, and no other solution has been proposed short of the DWID. I have worked with DWIDs throughout the state for over 20 years. They function. This one can function. It will function, and our community needs it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Kip Makuta.
Chairman, Madam Clerk, Kip Makuta is not on the webinar that I can see to unmute him, nor is Jenny Powers.
Thank you, Deb. Chairman, those are all the speakers we have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Comments from the board?
Yes.
Supervisor Chukri.
I think we just rounded out an hour, and I'm going to begin by asking Jan Pokorski a quick question that it was talked about or discussed that we're handing out permits like candy. I think that's a state law issue. Can you speak to that? Because, you know, as I've said to constituents there before, if we would have said no to your home, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Arizona's growing. I don't in any way disagree with this comment about managed growth and doing so responsibly. But can you speak to what we are allowed or disallowed to do when it comes to seeking permits or granting permits to build?
Yes, Chairman, Supervisor Chukri, members of the board. State law does not give us the permission to deny a building permit for a lack of water.
Perfect, thank you. Mr. Chairman, I said what I said at the outset because I think it was critically important to paint this canvas in a way that everyone understood. And as I say during these difficult issues, you can have your own opinions, but you can't have your own set of facts. And I think we heard a little bit of both today. This has been going on since I got elected to this job. I've had repeated meetings out there over the years. We had a respected former director of ADWR come out and share with us her comments for free as a favor to me. And so when it comes to these difficult situations, I think you have a process, and the process is what we're in the middle of. People may not like the process, but it is what it is. I've never said that the Attorney General's opinion is something that has set into motion that this should be approved or isn't approved. I think Ms. Kelly is upset, and I understand that, but I think she needs to make sure she has the right set of facts. What I've said to the proponents of this is I'm asking for your patience. I think we are at a serious state here in this process as to the needs of that community and the growth that has happened in recent years, and this has to be addressed. I'm not suggesting we haven't been addressing it over the years, but it has to be addressed, and we have to find a solution. I would also suggest to Ms. Kelly, if it comes to character, ask your very attorney representing you on this case to speak to my character. He knows me well. Aside from that, I believe that we have to have meetings to discuss. Many questions have yet to be answered. And because of that, I've done for the first time ever in my career here as a supervisor, requested that we hire an expert, an attorney who has an expertise in water law, and that's what we've done at the county's expense. We have hired Mike Pierce, and he is with Gamage Law Firm, and he is here today, at least telephonically, listening to all of this, and will begin a process that we will go and address fact by fact what is possible, what is not possible. To the proponents, I would say, again, you need to be patient. You need to make sure you have your facts as it relates to water source, cost. We can't have estimates. To the opponents, I think you have to also be aware of the realities here and just how sacred this water supply is. And let's make sure that we understand where Scottsdale is coming into play, what people's preference are, what will not change and what might change should a DWID carry forward. To the opponents, we have not sat in a meeting yet. We will do that. I am going to make a motion to continue this to May so we can have these meetings. That shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I am going to make a motion to move this item to May 19th to continue it. If I feel as though the progress isn't made, it's going to get continued again. We will come to a resolution and a solution that makes the best sense for that community. But I need to sit with the opposition and meet with them about their concerns. I need to sit again with the proponents, and they're probably going to have a meeting with all sides together. So patience is what I ask. We cannot shoehorn any kind of solution here. We have to make sure all facts and all information is gathered. So with that, I make that motion.
Thank you, Supervisor Chukri. We have a motion.
Mr. Chair, may I second that motion with a brief comment?
Yes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to acknowledge Supervisor Chukri's leadership on this issue. I very much appreciate the issues that he's addressing because we have similar ones, as he knows, and we've spoken about them up in Desert Hills and New River. And these are real issues because, as was mentioned, the city of Phoenix a few years back cut off the access to hold water for folks in our area, and we've been grappling with it for years. And I offer my assistance to Supervisor Chukri as he leads on this issue. And I think this approach of making a motion to continue makes a lot of sense given the issues that are involved and the number of folks who have come out to speak virtually on this issue. And I thank them along with Supervisor Chukri for their involvement. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to continue this item to May 19th. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, and I'm definitely going to support both that motion. And again, echoing also what Supervisor Gates said, thank you, Steve, for leading on this issue in your district. It's in each of our districts in certain capacities about water and water usage. A quick question, though. Is there a source or do we know how much water currently is being hauled into that community, as well as do we know how much water, is there some sort of tracking about how much water is being pulled from the aquifer that residents can reflect on? I don't know if that table is rising one way or the other when it comes to hauling versus well use. Do we know?
Chairman, Supervisor Hickman, and members of the board, there's an estimate there's about 700 homes that are hauling water. Much of that information has been gathered informally, since there's several water hauling companies that provide that service. So we don't have an exact number. In addition, we do have some studies and some information from ADWR regarding some of the wells out there that have to report to ADWR, but many of the wells are what's considered exempt wells. So the short answer is there is not precise data, but there is some information that I can share with you after this meeting.
Okay, I was just wondering if the residents are asking for that as well. There's two ways of getting the water, so I guess you could always put barrels out and catch rainwater too, but it would be maybe illuminating to all the residents if we could get those numbers for them. But again, non-exempt wells or exempt wells, I don't know if estimates are going to be helpful. But anyway, that's all I had.
Okay, thank you, Supervisor. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed?